2023 annual meeting this afternoon.
Yep. July 3rd, 2023.
July 3rd, 2023.
Time?
7 o'clock.
Bill's on his way. We're going to skip the financials and Jake is going with the board matters.
Well, then we get an operations report first, which is report.
I'm sorry. Okay.
That bill will probably be.
I like that ringtone.
Make sure you guys are speaking up. Oh,
This is the annual shop report from July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023. Item permit report, which is item stands for Indiana Department of Environmental Management. We are required by item to monitor our effluent for flows, CBODs, which is carbonaceous biological oxygen demand, TSS, total suspended solids, ammonia, phosphorus, and E. coli. We treated last year between these months 84,477,700 gallons of wastewater. We tested for CBODs 158 times with no violations. We tested TSS 158 times with no violations. We tested ammonias 158 times with 2 violations. We tested phosphorus 158 times with no violations. We tested E. coli 87 times with no violations. E. coli is tested from April 1st to October 31st. For the call-outs, we had 34 after-hour call-outs. Call-outs consist of emergency locates, power outages, emergency lift station repair, and sewer backups. In the plant, Willing Brother hauled 283,500 gallons of digested sludge to the farmer's field. We have had 15 auger jams on the microscreen. We took the electric motor for the number 1 and 3 blowers out and sent them in for repairs and reinstalled the motors. We had to change the belt on number 1 microscreen. The auger motor and the gear reducer went out on both number 1 and 2 microscreens. We had to replace both. We had to replace the skimmer arm on the number 3 clarifier with a new one. For power failures, during the course of the year, we had 6 power failures. Lift stations, we had 15 pump failures. We had to replace the battery and charger at the Nature Preserve lift station. Edgewood generator would not start. We found the modular for the carburetor went out. AccuDig replaced the old piping at the Pixley lift station. Cooley repaired the filling concrete structure at the main lift station. We installed the flow meter at the Shorewood Court lift station. We had to replace the PLC and the 24-volt transformer at the Shorewood Court lift station. The transformer went out and blew the PLC out. We cleaned the Nature Preserve lift station with the Vector truck, gravity sewer lines and manholes. We adjusted 4 manhole covers and raised 10 to ground level. We had to go to the effluent sewer line and remove 2 balls of roots. One was 15 foot and the other was 12. Because it is in the swamp area, we had to do this by hand. With Frontier putting in the fiber optic cable, we had to spend many hours locating our sewer lines. Capital replacements and improvements. We replaced the old gas detector at the microscreen building with a new updated unit. We had Cooley repair the cracks on the digesters. The 1994 Ford Vector truck. We have the Vector truck in Curry Ford working on some electrical issues and replacing the hydraulic line that blew when we were trying to clean the lift stations. We had to take the heater core and we replaced the heater core in the 2007 F-150 truck. We replaced the hot water heater at the shop. We had to remove the generator from the camera trailer and get it repaired. Forrest 2 has passed his CDL and can now drive the Vector truck. And we had to replace the laptop at the plant because of hardware issues. That concludes the shop report.
I got a question. Do we have questions for the shop report? Okay.
That's up to the board, that's not up to me.
No. Go ahead, Nancy.
We got warts in that sewer pipe that goes to the creek.
Yes, sir.
How do we find that? How did we discover that? I mean, what was the telltale sign that said, I gotta take a look at this?
Mike and Forrest came up and told me that they noticed that the water in the step aeration tank, or step aerator, which is the effluent that comes out and it drops down the steps, but the water was backing up, and they said they've never seen that before. So I told them, well, we got a block somewhere. So we had to go through the swamp looking for it.
Okay, and on that, in that nature preserve area that most of us call a swamp, what's going on over there? Are we getting a lot of water from Arbor Lakes, or?
Yes.
You were there a couple of days this week. What did you find out? Anything other than we're just getting a lot of water?
No, we haven't really done the televising for Arbor Lakes. We were there raising manholes is what we were doing. Trying to get all the manholes up to ground level.
Is that where it's, you talking about the manholes that are in the swamp? Where when
No.
the swamp, no, okay.
No,
I know those manholes, when the swamp gets too high, it starts going down into the manhole.
that's in the storm. There's no.
But that's not
manhole.
us.
No,
That is not us.
No.
Okay. Okay. Okay, that's all I got.
Yeah. That's fine. Let's do the board members.
Board matters are from July 5th, 2022 through today. Under our accomplishments, we received a $275,000 in settlement for one of our class action related lawsuits. We instituted a 401k plan for our employees. We resumed monthly meetings for board membership starting in October of 2022 to be held the third Monday of each month, 6 p.m., except for the annual meeting, of course, which is dictated to be, unfortunately, the first Monday of July. I think the person who wrote that forgot it wasn't July. We updated our website. Now it is accessible by all cell phones. Before, you could go to the website on your cell phone, but you couldn't access any of the information. But you got to see the homepage. Now you can access all of the information. And during that update, we also put everything that is member-oriented, minutes, bylaws, code of ethics, board actions, etc. We put all of that under that one category, and now that's protected by the pen, which I hope all of you got. So now when you go in, you put in your pen, and you can get that information, but people from the outside will not be able to. That way we can be a little more frank with what's going on. One of Tom's requests was that we started putting in the amounts of the bids that we received so you can see why we chose the bid we chose and compare them, and that will go there. But we didn't want to do that when it was open to everybody. So we got that done. We offered a refund to rental property owners to correct an error made by a previous board in March of 2018. The policy of the SFU board at the time made owners of rental property eligible for a refund if they pay the sewer bill for their renters who failed to pay for their sewer service, or whose rental property was vacant and they had the water turned off at that time. However, that board did not publicize this policy for the owners of rental property, and the only refund given was to a board member who had rental property. Policy changes. We require newly constructed homes to have shut-off valves that meet SFU specifications installed by the construction contractor at the contractor's expense before they are connected to SFU's sewer line. When a home is connected to SFU's sewer system, the owner of the property is responsible for the sewer bill, whether the home is occupied or not. We lowered the arrearage amount on customer accounts from $450 to $260, which is 4 months. Before we would take any kind of collection kind of activities, you had to have build up a bill of $450 or more, which meant that you were pretty much half a year back. So behind, at least 6 months, more than 6 months actually. So now we go when it's 260, which is the equivalent of 4 months. We no longer accept payment plans. We found that in the past, we used to allow, if you were way behind, we allow you to have a payment plan. We did away with that because we found that people who are habitually late, they're also late on paying their payment plan. So we decided that we would no longer voluntarily do payment plans and only go into them if it is ordered by a court. Our commitments. We committed as a board to adhere to SFU's bylaws as closely as possible, which has not been done exactly by previous boards. Even little things like having the meeting, even though I'm moving back because the sun is going through my glasses and it's like, even though they used to have them in July, they would have them on the 20-something, whenever they wanted to. But our bylaws stipulate it's the first Monday in July, except if it falls on a holiday, and then you have to do the first Tuesday. We're working to better organize our records. Linda and I come in once a month, approximately on a Saturday, and spend several hours trying to get the records there. We have records, it's just that they're not as easily accessible. And believe me, one thing that these court cases have taught us is that having records at your fingertips when your attorneys call at the last moment and say, I need this, I need that. So we're doing a better job of trying to get that so that we can be faster. We are also committed to changing our bylaws as soon as our attorney allows us to do so in light of the pending lawsuits. This change, one of the changes that we are going to implement will be, one of the changes that we are going to implement will be to put it in the bylaws that the utility cannot be sold without a vote of the membership. That was something that came up regularly at our meetings, and we know that you guys want that, and as soon as we can change, that will be one of the changes. There'll be other changes as well, because there's some things in our bylaws that don't work too well. We're going to do a better job of that, but that for sure will be in there. And we are still committed to putting this utility in the best possible position to operate once Mr. Flag Forrest over there actually really retires. He's been trying for over a year now. We keep saying, no, Forrest, not yet, not yet. So, but we're looking at we're doing everything, we're looking at everything, we're covering the world, if you will. We're looking for a person to replace him, to be another force. We're looking for,
Outside company.
an outside company to come in to run the utility. We're looking at the possibility of contracting with someone who has the proper license classification for wastewater technician to come in periodically, do the paperwork that's required by IDEM, and to come in and be there as the consultant when there's something that our guys don't know, what's going on. And they, like for instance, the case when Doris talked about the roof thing, when they said water is going down, we've never seen it before, we don't know. Forrest knew as soon as they told him what was happening. So we're looking for someone who can do something like that. It might even be Forrest, who knows? And with that, that concludes board minutes. Oh, one other thing, we did implement board actions for our board, which gives you a snapshot of all of the things that this board voted on, whether we voted by email, whether we voted in executive session, or whether we voted in a membership meeting at your fingertips. The only things that aren't there are routine votes like approving minutes. We figured you really weren't interested to be approving minutes. Legal things, if we made some legal decisions, we don't put that out there unless, because particularly on an ongoing case. And if there are personnel kind of issues that we're not going to be airing, people's, some employee is whatever, disciplined or whatever, we're not going to be putting that out there in board actions. But other than that, whether it's a vote or if we just by consensus agree, those things are there too. So you'll see all of that. So we want to be as open as we possibly can, so that we're doing things, whatever we can in front of you. What we can't do in front of you, we want you to know what that was. And it was not only do we tell you what happened, we tell you how each one of us voted on the matters where it was a vote. With that, I'll turn it over to Bill for his financials.
I'm going to have to stand over here because the sun is unbelievable.
You did that on
Yeah, well, it worked. Sorry I was a little late. All right, May operating income and expenses. For First Source Bank, we have $77,984.28 we have $48,037.80 for bond. We don't have any bond payments.
No, for
We just have the two. Okay.
That's great.
All right. The surplus is $29,946.48. Okay. Operating income, $391,021.68. Expenses, $251,665.22, which gives us $139,356.44. Okay, so our surplus is that $139,356. Unrestricted funds, operating fund, we have $441,640.95. Operating fund, we have $50. In petty cash, we have $200, which gives us a total of $441,890.95. Improvement and replacement, we have $33,000. As far as capital improvement, $33,762.75. Our total capital improvement is $17,120.43. The class action, well, we don't have anything with that. On our May, our total to date, what we spend in legal fees is $435,569.09. Our total reserve funds are $139,932.35. And the total unrestricted funds is $598,943.73, for a grand total of everything of from January. This is everything that we have.
All expenses.
All expenses. $393,361.20. Okay. Now, as far as our arrearage, right now we have 57 customers. Average delinquency is $87.94. Our payments outstanding are $5,012.67. And that's for June. For May, we had 108 residents in arrears.
That's a collection month.
That's a collection month, that's right. For an average delinquency of $144.30, with payments outstanding in May of $15,584.11. So as you can see, we knocked 10 grand off, so it kind of helps. Okay. Thank you.
I got a question. Linda, did we pay any legal bills in June?
Yes.
You write any checks?
Wait a minute. One, I did to
For what amount?
Bracky.
So you gotta add that amount to the 430.
Well, that's in June, this is May, so,
Well, yeah, this goes up to May 31st.
right, I don't know.
We're in July now.
Correct, but I only had one lawyer.
Year to date. Year to date. I was wondering how much
No,
you got.
I don't know that.
You don't know that number? Okay.
I really don't.
The, Bill, you're the man as far as when it comes to, keeping track of all these lawyers. Besides, we have the Stratford federal case coming up in August, and the POA case coming up in November. We got any of these other lawsuits we got going here? Is there anything coming up here soon?
Well, we have the lawsuit against Bob Welch.
And that's going to court when?
What date do we have for that, Scott?
Early October. So we're about 90 days out right as we sit here.
And that's the actual court date, or is that?
That's the actual trial.
That's the actual trial.
That's the actual trial.
Gonna get
So
going.
we get that far. Yeah.
Yeah, should we get that far? Okay. I'm just wondering when these are gonna come to a close,
That one's about,
one way or the other, you know?
that one's in about 90 days.
Okay.
You just want to give a legal update since he's asking you all legal questions.
If you
I don't know the answers. Please go.
Sure. Okay, so a few things. First, as there are three cases I'll talk about briefly. So as everybody's probably aware, there's a case, we call it the Jensen case, it involved Attorney Jensen. He filed some things without permission, big no-no, and as a result of that, it caused a lot of the downstream harm here. That case has been held and waiting on certain other issues to be resolved. So there's, on one side, there's not been any billing activity towards it to speak of at all. On the other hand, it's not moving while it's being held, waiting on other matters. The other case, as you heard, is the Bob Welch matter. He was the utilities attorney at the time when the contract for Arbor Lake South was signed. He was the one responsible for parts of that contract, and he was the one who basically ignored the advice at the time involving capacity, and just kind of said, I'm not an engineer, and let things proceed. That matter is currently ready for trial in about 3 months. That's where that's at. The third case is the case between utility and the Property Owners Association, involving the fact that there's property that they had agreed to into a 99-year lease splitting costs. And what happened there, we ended up having to file for summary judgment. To quickly kind of explain, for people who may not know what summary judgment is when you say, you know what, Your Honor, there's no reason to even send this to a trial or send it to a jury. The facts are the facts, and they're not even in dispute. When we filed a motion for summary judgment, which is something I rarely will do, a case has to be almost black and white, and they almost never are, for you to file for summary judgment as a plaintiff, because you almost never will get it. We filed for summary judgment because it was fairly black and white. You have a contract, one party's not paying, the other party is saying, hey, we're incurring tens of thousands of dollars in losses, please pay your bill. What ended up happening in that was the judge looked at it, and Judge Clymer, a very smart man, took a look at the case and said, you know what, we think Shore Forest Utility is right. Some of this it's not even in dispute. And so they gave us what's called partial summary judgment, where they said, okay, utility, POA, you have to pay a certain portion of this to the utility right up front, where there's no disputing it, it's not going to trial, just pay your bill. The other items, there were a couple of others that are still going to trial. One of them we didn't try for summary judgment on was the trespassing information. We didn't have enough information about it at the time, we do now. The other items, the judge didn't quite, and he kind of indicated he was very close to granting, I think he was right on the border of. He mentioned that he didn't understand what the term mill out meant when there was a section that talked about milling out the old road. So he wasn't sure if that was an extension and therefore not maintenance, or if it was actual maintenance on the road that was there before. We know that milling out means milling out the existing road and repaving it as part of standard repaving. At trial, I'm reasonably certain that will be something that he's willing to grant to SFU. And then with regards to the lawn care, he just wasn't sure when we talk about lawn care, whether we're talking about lawn care for that area or if it was more overall. And so he wanted some information around that before he could make a decision on that. So it was very close on some items. On the insurance, he said absolutely there's no question of what the insurance is about, so he granted that already. So that case is proceeding. We're quickly getting towards a bench trial on it. In the meantime, Lord, I don't know, do you care if I talk about the settlement discussions?
Yeah, go ahead.
So just so you know, and the board is trying again, they understand the concerns of the membership. You don't want, mommy and daddy fighting. You don't want the utility and the POA fighting if possible. And so they offered a settlement to the POA prior to the summary judgment. They offered a settlement saying, hey, we'll agree to disagree and we can settle this for a lower amount. I won't talk about the exact amount, but settle this for a lower amount than what's owed, just to get this resolved, and so we can all move on with our life. The POA decided not to do that. Now there's been partial summary judgment against the POA, and the board of the utility still said, hey, you know what? We'll still offer you an opportunity to stop here. And so that offer has been put on the table for the POA to try to stop this still. And it's really up to them at this point. The ball is in their court to pick up the ball and say, okay, we'll agree to that, or maybe we can negotiate it, but let's see if we can get this to a resolution without having to incur more legal fees, without having to get this thing through a trial. I think that the utility board has been extremely reasonable, but at the same time, they do owe a duty to their membership to not allow tens of thousands of dollars in payments just to be foregone rather than being paid on a contract that was written and expressed between the parties. And that's kind of where we're at, if that makes sense. Any questions?
I have one. In reference to the contract, as far as maintenance, Frontier has a building back there, and also Indiana American Water has access to that same road. What level of participation do they pay for the repairs to that service road?
I didn't know what they did with it because I don't know what contract they have involving it. I only know what the POA's contract is.
Well, you don't feel it was your responsibility to, before you put if you're putting a price that Shorewood had to pay, if you will, I'm assuming in your summary judgment action, you added up what they owed, is that correct?
Yes.
And you present, well, obviously if Frontier and also Indiana American Water, who had the water tank there, were to pay a part of that, that would have reduced Shorewood's portion, am I not correct?
You're not correct, actually.
Oh, I'm not correct?
No, if you'd like, I can explain. So if I have a contract, and let's say I'm to work, we're gonna share a road. We're gonna share the cost on that road. And let's say that there's a third party that also uses that road. If I don't have a contract with them, they're using the road for free. Now, maybe I say, okay, you know what? If this is a public road, I can always say, you know what? You're gonna have to start paying something for it, I can work that out with them. But there's no contract between me and that third party for their access to that, then I have no means of collecting. You don't collect on something from somebody without a contract. And here the difference.
That's my question, though. My question was, did you investigate if there was a contract between Indiana American Water and Shorewood, Shorewood Utilities, and Frontier, if you will? Did you investigate that they should have had a contract and they should have paid their portion of the cost?
To my knowledge, the only contract involving this area is between, and again, I've seen the written contract, and the only parties named on the contract for this specific area are Shore Forest Utilities and the Property Owners Association.
Well, I understand that's what's been provided to you, but as the attorney, shouldn't you have investigated that?
They don't have any contract.
We don't have one.
There was no
Oh, you don't have
contract.
any contract, service contract at all with Indiana American Water?
Not within the paper road, no,
No.
You don't?
no.
So they benefit from the snow removal, they benefit from the maintenance on the road, that's all free, that's the board's decision.
That would be the decision that was made in 1994, and as far as Frontier, that was in 1974 or something, that was way back when.
So what's the point? I mean,
So the-
are you ignoring that, you're ignoring the fact that they don't have any wear and tear on these facilities? You're just giving them free? Is that in the best interest of the utility, let them continue to use that service road and not
Well,
pay
NIPSCO
their
came in and
portion?
replaced all the poles in the back, and they have no contract with us either. But
One
NIPSCO
thing-
can do that, and whoever wrote the contract for Frontier, maybe you should talk to them, and the ones that wrote it.
Wait a minute, you're the board of directors, you're charging Shorewood, the POA, if
Because
you
we have a
will,
contract with them.
for their percentage of the repair. And I'm just saying their percentage of repair would be reduced if you were charging all parties who use access to that road. And you're saying you haven't even investigated the contract or took a look at the
There is no
contract. I have no
contract.
idea.
Right, that would not, even if we had a contract, it would not necessarily reduce the POA's portion. Their contract says they pay 3/7. If you could have a contract with Indiana American Water, maybe they're paying 1/7. We could enter into one today, but it won't lessen the 3/7 that the POA has to pay.
You got that right. You're half right. But if the cost is shared among a group of 4, Shorewood's portion would be less.
No, it wouldn't.
Oh,
Shore Forest Utilities
I'm
would be.
very confused about that then. I don't
You must,
understand.
Shore
Greg, there's no
Forest Utilities.
contract with them.
There's 7 sevens, okay? 3 of the 7s, I don't care if we have the other 4 parceled out to 4 other places.
I understand that's your thing.
POA pays 3/7, that's what their contract says. If somebody else, if you did a contract with, Frontier, you're not gonna say, oh, so we're gonna lower the 3/7 for them and have them only pay 2/7. No, they pay 3/7 of the
Well,
cost.
you're
of
confused. You're confused.
I'm not
I'm just
confused.
simply saying that all parties that use that road and all parties who benefit from the snow plowing should be properly participating. You're saying, oh, the only one that has to participate is Shorewood. Okay, that's your thinking. That's
I'm
the
not
board-
saying.
That's the board's decision. I can't argue.
Greg, we're not saying that. What we're saying is even if we were to enter a contract with other users of the road, it would not change the amount that POA would owe at all.
But you could if you wanted to.
Enter in a
Let's-
contract with the other.
I'm gonna pause there for a second. It's not even certain that you could. So in order to do what I think Greg's trying to propose here, which is go back to a couple of other entities and see if they can start contributing to some of this, you first have to find out what kind of agreement they have to use that in the first place. Now, there's no contract that anyone's aware of for them to use it. However, there are also things like easements, there are also other rights of access that are often granted or part of. So we talk about, in real estate law, we talk about having covenants and burdens on other estates. It's very possible that there's a covenant, an easement, or a burden that exists that would in some way allow them to use that. as a part of that purchase. But here's where I'm going with that. In order to investigate that, we would have to go back, investigate how they originally acquired the rights, and then see if, and here's the other little tidbit, so that you can also develop an easement over time by using a property for a certain amount of time. In Indiana, that's 20 years. Well, we just heard that these are dating back to 1970s and 1990s. So it's very probable that they now have an easement either way developed by use. So this board may not be legally able to stop that directly. Or they may incur legal costs to find out, they may incur additional costs in research and trying to work through that. It's possible, but what's frankly more likely is, and again, it's up to the board to figure these things out, but it's more likely in my estimation, just on the back of the napkin, that they might incur significant cost to find out that there's really not much they could do about it, given the length of time that this has been going on. And so, they'd have to weigh that consideration of it. It's not, you can't go back to somebody who's been doing something since the 1970s without a contract and then turn around and say, okay, but now you're going to start paying unless the situation changes in some way, or you have some other item where they might be able to take a different access road. But it's, again, it would be subject of some investigation, and there's a cost associated with that investigation. It's not just as simple as picking up a phone and saying, okay, now you're going to have to start paying this. That's the challenge.
Yeah, I've got a question, maybe Forrest can answer this. Back, I think it was 97, when Indiana American, when we finally got city water, the property association sold the water tower, I think it was for $200,000, right?
I don't
That
know.
water tower for a couple $100,000, and we gave it to them real cheap.
Yeah,
Mr. Seville, how could they sell the water tower to Indiana American Water when the access to the water tower goes right through Shorewood Forest Utilities? Did we get any money for this first? We didn't get nothing.
I have no
They
idea.
sold the water tower. They can't get to the water tower without going on our property, but we got nothing.
Who sold, but then the utilities.
The property owners sold the water tower, I think, not us, right?
No, it was the
It
utility.
was the utility.
Oh, it was us,
We
it was
have
us,
the
I thought.
water.
Yeah, it was the
That's what I
utility.
was gonna say.
Oh, okay, I'm mistaken. I thought the POA was the one.
No.
No, it was okay. Okay, then that makes sense. I was wondering how they did that. Yeah, I mean, how did he do that if we own the road?
No.
The whole
We
rest of
also
the
own
okay,
the house.
so the water, the drinking water was handled by Shorewood Forest Utilities?
Yes.
Why wasn't it handled by the property owners association?
Same reason that they don't have no sewer.
Right. That's why Shorewood Forest Utilities was called utilities.
Because of the two, and then we were putting our
Right.
bill on Indiana American Water until and then they stopped that. They didn't want to do that anymore because their software, I believe, right, couldn't handle it. And so, okay.
Even before that, we used to bill directly to us before we went to Indiana.
Okay, yeah.
You have a question for Scott?
Yeah, I've got two questions on financials. One is, we received, first of all, I'm Frank Draciel from Harbor Lake Slot. We received $275,000 in a class action suit. It may have been said, but I didn't pick up on, where's that money going?
Went to pay legal bills.
It was an auction.
Went to pay legal bills. We got 275, but all in all, we got about 400, and Linda, you don't know the June bill, but I think we got about $460,000 in legal bills.
So it's going all towards legal.
Well, we gotta pay the legal bills. If you notice on this financial statement, we're running about $2,000 in the hole year to date. We're spending more money than we're getting, and it's because we're getting eaten up alive with these legal bills.
Second question, there's, in a money market, there's some $300,000 at Fifth Third, and year-to-date interest minus service charges of 42.30. I'm looking at this right, and again, maybe I'm not seeing it. We earned 18 cents on $300,000. I have a money market right now that I'm earning 5%, and I need 100,000 to get that.
That's not what it is.
We had a money market.
Most of the money we received in January from people paying $750 up front. And that $600,000 that we have in reserve, a lot of that money is gonna be spent from now to the end of the year because we're not getting those monthly payments from those people. We got it all in January. So the problem is if we take $400,000 or something and put it in a CD, we could need it. $600,000 don't go very far with all the,
Well, what I'm
weight
saying
we're
is a
carrying.
money market, not a CD.
Oh, I
CD
see.
has a time factor established. Money market, you can take your money, for $300,000, I mean, I'll give you an example. I have a checking account at Centier, 1/10%, and I have a Fidelity, I have a rather large money market that's earning 5%, that I could take all the money out tomorrow morning.
Well, that's worth investigating into, but we would need it where we got.
Is that personal though, remember?
Yeah, that's why commercial's a whole different animal. We don't get the deals, you people get the personal. You know, they ain't give them to us.
But
Let
it is something.
me
we need
just
to
say
look
this
at.
much. I would recommend that the board investigate to see if they get a better return
Yeah.
on their monies. Things have changed in 1 year substantially. A year ago, a year and a half ago, I probably could have get 10 or 1% on my money market. Today, I can get 5%. Now, I have to have $100,000, but it's not tied into any type of time framework. I can take the money out tomorrow. And $300,000 at 5%, that's $15,000.
As long as we can get to it the next day without a penalty.
Yeah.
See, we used to have CDs, and we had $50,000 allotments of CDs and then $20,000 in CDs, just in case we had to start cashing money.
All I'm asking is the board should.
Yeah, we should. That's a good idea.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Questions for the board? I guess,
I have a quick question. Are you going to continue the one-time payment in the future?
yes.
Yeah,
I'd like to do that.
I came up with that idea.
Would actually
I
like
ride
to.
that dog all the way to my grave.
It's only for $30 right now, and we're kind of pushing to have, if you pay it in full, just take 11 months. We're trying to get to 65. I know.
Yeah, so that's my thing. Give me 11 months, get the 12th month free. But we're not there yet. We're not there yet.
Yes.
Until
We
we
get-
get,
we get
until we
somebody
get
that's-
some of those legal fees out, we can't.
That's kind of like,
I would like to make it.
Yes, sir.
I noticed that the board now is looking into things and making sure that things aren't overlooked, like the contract that was overlooked for 15 years and not looking into who else could pay for, helping pay for the roads and stuff like that. So those kind of things are now being looked into, so we're not faced with the same problem 15 years from now that we're faced with now.
Because boards rotate, it's hard when you come in, there's no, let's exchange knowledge with the previous board, it's just the board is gone. So a lot of times we lose a lot of stuff. One of the reasons that we're kind of keen on going through our records and trying to get them together is to find out what's in here that we don't know about that happened years ago. And until we go through them, we won't know about.
Of course, and a good thing now too that you guys are doing is sharing more with us, so those kind of things might not go under.
Jackie spends a lot of time in there just trying to find out what happened in the past 1 year.
She's always
Yeah,
around.
the one thing under commitments, we should, I'm just seeing this for the first time, but we operate in accordance with 501c12 non-for-profit. That's part of the commitment.
We've been doing it and we're still doing it. We're not gonna change.
But it should be in the commitments. And how are we doing on that?
It's like-
501c12. Okay, so fine, you don't think you should be in there, okay.
I mean,
How are we doing on that, okay? We're running according to 501c12?
According to our attorney, it's
Attorney,
fine.
our attorney, we're doing fine,
Okay.
and we're collecting, we're tax-free, we don't pay taxes, so.
Anything else?
Yeah, in reference to the 501c12 Tom brought up, I have to ask you that, Mr. Kappas and Mr. Sielski, were you on the board in 2007? I think you were president, weren't you, Mr. Kappas?
I
think so.
I don't
Think so? Interesting enough, I have in my possession, and I have a few of these for people who might want to see them, that on October 10th, 2007, London Whitty did a audit and then made some recommendations at the end, and I'm going to read you one of them here. Control deficiencies. The corporation is filing a tax exemption entity under IC section 501c12. This tax code section and corresponding case law and interpretation require the corporation to operate on a cooperative basis as defined by the IRS. Now, I know Jackie has a real problem with that because she said they can basically do whatever they want. The corporation is not meeting all the requirements of operating on a cooperative basis as defined by the IRS. And that was in 2007. Have we corrected that? Have we corrected that? Because I've been all over that, and this all falls on deaf ears that you guys are operating right
Well,
according
I
to
can
the
tell you,
rules.
the board at that time, you know, I was the one that asked for that audit, and the board at that time did make those corrections. I don't know if they stayed corrected, but the board I was on, that I was president of, did correct it.
Okay, so are you operating under the 501c12 regulation where the membership,
According to our
when the
attorney.
let me finish, when the membership is supposed to participate in the decision making?
And here we go again.
Right.
No, Jackie, you're the one that has the real problem with the
No, I don't have a
501c12.
problem with
I'm
it
just
at
telling you,
all.
over the years, the board has continually to try to garner more and more power without having the membership participate. And unfortunately, that's not how
Did
it
the
works.
membership participate from 2017 to 2019?
How did they participate?
In the
Well, at every meeting when I was president or whatever, anytime there was an issue, action was going to be taken in front of the board, we would ask for discussion among the membership. Among the membership. That is not what's been going on in the
Did that board
utility.
discuss the refund?
May I
Did
finish?
the board discuss the refund?
May I finish?
No,
And I'm
it
saying, first of all, you did numerous actions, if you will, by email and telephone conversations. And if you look at your own precious code of ethics, that's not considered a proper venue, if you will. So the question is, are any of those decisions the board made by phone or by the email is not proper? It's not proper. Oh, you're saying it is? Well, you know.
In the bylaws, I think it refers to the
Okay.
fact that we can have.
It's all right,
we
it's
can
all
do
right.
Business with electronic.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, we can.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I like the new POA board. They're gonna do all their voting in front of the public, and that's the way it should be. The people should know what we're voting on, and we shouldn't have anything that we're voting on behind their backs, bring it all out in the open.
Well, Tom, I'll tell you one thing, and I know that's a real hot issue. It has nothing to do with the utility for whatever. But what I don't agree with is that they do all their business, then they take input from the membership or whatever. That's not how it should be done. It should be done, when you're gonna take action on an issue, you should take input from the membership, which certainly should be,
That's what I
has
said
to be
in
the
the
issue with a 501c12. But the fact of the matter is, they make a decision and they're saying, okay, who wants to talk about it? It's just a little convoluted, but that's just my opinion. I'm not necessarily all right, but when I make a decision, I want to hear from the membership, and sometimes there's only one or two or three people there, but they always had a chance to comment before we
Thank
do that.
you, Mr. Schaefer. Any other questions?
You want to get rid of me, right?
I just wanted to thank the board for your service to us, and you guys are all volunteers, and I know this year was not an easy year. You guys were under repeated attack by your former board member, Schaefer over here. But I personally am grateful to all of you for ousting him from the board. We can see what I've witnessed him many, many times online, attacking you, calling you the renegades. I've seen him in person repeatedly attack contacting you. So I am actually very, very glad you guys ousted him, and thank you for your service. Stay strong. Thanks to Attorney Seville for being here also. You guys are doing a fantastic job. It's a very difficult job. It's kind of a complicated job because there's so many lawsuits going on. I don't know how you can possibly keep track of all of it. But stay firm, the decision that you made to keep him off the board. You have the support of the community, I can guarantee you, 100%. So thank you.
We'll see about that.
She's got it.
Hey, Greg, can I ask you something? You say you always go to the membership. When you were president and you hired yourself to do work,
Yes.
for the, did you ask the membership you could do that without bidding the job?
First of all, let me speak to that, because I know that that's a real problem with Jackie too, or whatever. I've probably done 35 jobs for the Shore and Forest POA, 35.
I don't care
Or
about
more. Well over $1 million in work done with them.
Did
I've
you
always
bid
signed a
the
contract.
job?
I've
Did you bid
finished.
the
You
job?
asked a question,
You
I'm
didn't
gonna
bid the
answer.
job.
I'm gonna answer the
You
question.
didn't bid the job.
Now,
Okay, so
I've been
allegedly
over $1 million,
you stole from the
if you
company.
will, and
Okay.
at no time did I ever ask for a deposit, and at no time did I ask for intermediate payments. Until the
Motion
job
to
was done
adjourn.
and the board had a chance to look at my work, then they would go ahead and decide
Meeting
whether
adjourned.
they paid me at all. I never had a complaint with the POA once, but the utility. But just for the record, and this brain trust in the back, I don't know who she is, but we find out.